Good afternoon to all the judges present and my fellow IITians. I, Bharat Krishna, along with my friends, will be delivering the presentation for Bosch Electric Vehicle Simulation Challenge, and we represent IIT number 9. The problem statement required us to design and simulate an electric vehicle, and the choice of the vehicle segment was left to us, and we chose a two-wheeler owing to the growing market of electric two-wheelers in India and to focus more on the design of the powertrain rather than the vehicle body and the vehicle dynamics. This is followed by benchmarking and selection of parameters to meet these benchmarks, which is done via simulations. Finally, results are to be compiled to ensure that the set targets have been met. Moving on to baselining. Since the performance of the vehicle has to meet certain targets, it was essential to benchmark our design against electric two-wheelers currently in the market. Analyzing the data available on them, we set our design targets. We set benchmarks for acceleration, top speed, gradability, and braking distance of the vehicle. Moving on to the simulation part. Certain simulations had to be run to find out the motor parameters. The most important simulations for acceleration and top speed values were run first, and the peak torque and power of the motor were fixed. First simulations were run to ensure that these values indeed meet the performance baselines. Transient models accounting for suspension loads, dynamic load transfer, aerodynamics, and tire models were used for the simulations. A driver model was included in the model as and when necessary. Let us look at the flowcharts of the simulations we used. A flowchart showing the working of the model used for the first few simulations is shown here. The inputs to the model were the feasible values of the torque and power caps of the motor. The model was run iteratively and the required results were compiled. In this model, the throttle input from the driver is assumed to be at 100% at all the times. For simulations that required an intelligent driver to be driving the vehicle, a longitudinal driver model was included in the model. The model shown here was used to simulate the model shown here was used to size the battery and to calculate the efficiency of the various components. And a standard Indian urban driving cycle was simulated in the model. The results of these models, as I said, was used to size the battery and for efficiency calculations. Moving on, this image in the next slide shows a snapshot of the Simulink model used for the drive cycle simulation. The various blocks and subsystems in the model, like the drive cycle, longitudinal driver, tire and motor models, and the vehicle body, can be seen here. I would like to add here that the bicycle model was used for simulate the vehicle body, and a magic formula model was used to simulate the tires. Moving on, let us look at the results compiled from these simulations. The first part shows the acceleration time from 0 to 40 kilometers per hour against the peak torque of the motor. We set a target of 3.3 seconds to go from 0 to 40 kilometers per hour, and a peak torque of 26 Newton meter helped us achieve this benchmark. So we went ahead with this value. The next plot shows the top speed versus the peak motor power. The benchmark we set for the top speed was around 80 kilometers per hour, and the power of 5.5 kilowatts was helping us meet this requirement, and thus we went ahead with this value. Moving on, this slide shows the summary of the benchmarks we set and the targets we achieved. It can be seen that all the targets we set have been achieved, and let us now move on to the motor design part.
Thank you. So the first order of business in the motor design is to understand the constraints that we have. And as we can see that we have a power constraint and a torque constraint. Then we have used a voltage rating. The battery voltage is upper limited to 83.14 volts. And I must clarify here that the rated voltage that we've chosen for the motor is 1/√3 times the voltage rating that is given by the battery design team. And the factor of 1/√3 comes from the inverter design that would be discussed in a later section. Having said that, now what we do is we perform an optimetric analysis using ANSYS Maxwell RM Expert, in which parameters like the number of poles and all are varied, and the required motor parameters for the Simulink model as well as for the analytical computation of efficiency are presented before you. There are more parameters of which could possibly be of interest. They are provided in the supporting talk, which also has the analytical formulae for the computation of efficiency at a given point. Moving on, we shall now look at the simulation model of the motor. So you can see that this there are two references you are providing. You are providing reference which essentially plays the role of the voltage limit. VQ square plus VD square equals that constant that you have at hand. Then you have the reference, the speed reference. You have PI controllers which provide the Q and D axis currents. You convert them to the ABC phase reference currents. Inverter is already designed by the inverter design group, which would talk about it in much greater detail. Then there are blocks to compute in input power and output power and the efficiency. Moving on, we shall now look at the results of the model. So this is the variation of speed with time. If you choose the base speed and the maximum possible torque you can apply. And if we move on to the highest possible speed, you can see that the transients take a significantly long time, around 120 milliseconds or so, if we approximate it that way. If we look at the torque profile, you might see a huge transient at the beginning, but for me as a designer, this wasn't really of interest as such. I was more focused on the steady state torque, whether it was having any ripple or if you look at the torque profile at the highest allowable speed, you can the next slide please. Yeah, you can see that there is an initial transient, but at the steady state, the ripple in the torque is significantly less, which is another thing we kept in mind while designing or obtaining the final design parameters. Now, if we move on, there is a very important plot that you will come across. This is the motor efficiency contour. So, this will essentially provide an information of the efficiency at a given value of torque and speed, and using that you can also find out the limit, the maximum power you can draw from the motor or the maximum power you can inject into it depending on the mode of operation. The black lines that you see are the constant power contours, and you can see the other contours don't cross these lines, indicating that these are the power limits in some sense. Now we can move on to the inverter design.
Yeah, so for the inverter design, the design requirements were that we require a variable voltage, variable frequency supply with a 48 volt peak phase to neutrals value. And so for this, we have used a basic three-phase voltage source inverter with a DC link capacitor to limit the ripples. And so the first design choice was to determine the switching strategy, for which we have used a conventional space vector pulse width modulation, in which in this DQ space we can achieve any VD VQ required in the VDC by root 3A range. And we have, as we can see from here, we have control over the DC, over the peak value and the frequency using the modulation factor M as shown here. The advantages of CSV PWM is that it has a high DC bus utilization of VDC by root 3, and it has lower power losses and harmonic distortion as compared to other primitive pulse width modulation schemes such as sine triangle modulation. So now next, using this, we get the DC input voltage as 83.14 volts and the peak RMS current to be at 101.5 amperes. And finally, also to limit the ripple at the DC input side, the voltage ripple to 2%, we would need a 4000 microfarad capacitor, and this was calculated at the rated speed. Yeah. So next slide. So now the next thing we have to think of is the switch we will be using. The switch requires a blocking voltage of 80 volts and a max current of 100 amperes. As the blocking voltage is relatively lower, we would be preferred to use a MOSFET switch rather than an IGBT because it has lower losses and can operate at higher switching frequencies. We have also taken a switching frequency of 25 kilohertz because at this provides low enough harmonic distortion, and if we go for higher switching frequencies, there may be an increase in temperature and also higher losses. So keeping those requirements in mind, we have chosen this switch which has a voltage rating of 120 volts and a current rating of 237 amps, which is way above what we would require. Then we use these formulae to calculate the conduction and the switching losses per cycle for the switch, and using these for the P loss, we can compute the efficiency, and the efficiency plot is shown in the next figure. And as we can see, over the majority of the required range, we have greater than 90% efficiency, reaching a peak of 97%.
Yeah, so I'll now cover the battery sizing aspects of the EV. So the primary inputs to the battery sizing team was the target range and the drive cycle used. So for target range, we chose a value of 85 kilometers. So this is on the slightly higher side of ranges you can expect for two-wheeled electric vehicles. And we went for a standard urban Indian drive cycle. So I'll now describe the methodology used. So we first computed the useful power, which is the power output at the motor, and using the various formulations described above, we have an idea of what the efficiency of the motor, inverter, and battery is. So based on this, we can calculate the total power that's lost by the system in delivering this useful power. So now we have an idea of the power drawn from the battery for generating this useful power. Now, along with this, we calculated the power consumed by auxiliary loads. So the main auxiliary load here was a cooling system, which ensured that the motor's temperature was well within the operating range. And based on the parameters of the cooling system, we were able to compute the auxiliary power. So here you can see the actual specifications that we finally decided. So the usable battery capacity comes out to 3 kilowatt hour, and with a range of 85 kilometers, that comes out to an average energy per driving cycle of 35 watt hour per kilometer. So the standard value of this parameter for Indian two-wheeled electric vehicles is 33 watt hour per kilometer. So this is a fairly accurate estimate of that value. And you can see the auxiliary power consumption is 12%, so it's not a small number, definitely a significant factor in the calculations. And the final battery unit's weight came out to 18 kgs. So this is the entire battery unit's weight, includes the cells and the casing and the various packaging elements. So that's it for the battery.
So since we have talked about the battery parameters, I think it's safe to venture into regenerative braking. So we know that from the battery calculation, we know that the power capacity of charging is around 4.9 kilowatts, but our motor power has a maximum of 5.5 kilowatts. So by limiting the usable torque, we can prevent the use of excess capacity of supercapacitors that are massive. A simple assumption that would help here for safety considerations is that regenerative braking should be disabled for velocity less than 12 kilometers per hour, and the braking distance has to be maintained. So here we have a snapshot of our Simulink model. It does become very easy to index your inputs and outputs to each and every block with Simulink, and the colors sure make it look pretty. The model uses drive cycle as an input, and the values are iterated for each and every value and each and every time. The output here was a simple calculation of the regenerated power and whether or not the driver was able to follow the drive cycle. This here we zoom into the braking block where we just have the distribution of brakes into the friction braking and the regenerative braking according to our needs. For talking about the plots, we use a standard Indian urban drive cycle, that is aggregate of velocity versus time of numerous Indian consumers. We can see that the recorded speed and drive cycle are on the y-axis. Zooming into it, we can see that the driver was closely able to follow the drive cycle. Conclusively, check error at 2 points, and the average is about 1.8%. The notion is driver should be able to chase the drive cycle, and that seems to be fulfilled here. Going down to the power calculations, the negative motor power here represents regenerative braking. And all in all, we were able to have an increase in average energy per drive cycle of about 0.623%. I know this is small, but implementing this on a large scale could have a considerable impact.
So far we've described the primary systems involved in the mobility of the electric vehicle, but in a practical implementation, it requires various other auxiliary systems to function. So some of these systems include the BMS, ECU, CAN. The BMS routes power through the entire vehicle. The ECU controls all electrical systems, and the CAN is responsible for communication of all the electrical components. And we also have a central harness which acts as a physical connection between the various electrical components. So these components include sensors and other systems as described previously, the auxiliary loads of the lights, fans, dash. And of course, last but not least, we have the safety systems as well. These include fuses and insulation monitoring, which ensure that the passenger can feel safe even in the event of any malfunction. So we've described in detail the implementation of these systems in the supporting document. And that's it for our presentation. Thank you. We'll be happy to take any questions right now.
Does the mission you designed requires active cooling?
We actually did a simulation of the motor, and it turned out that without any active cooling system, the temperature of the motor went beyond its rated value. So for that, we implemented a cooling system.
Okay. What was the efficiency of the mission? It's around 90 plus, right? 92, 93.
Efficiency of which machine?
Electric machine.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat?
No, whatever the mission you have designed, what is the efficiency of that mission?
Okay, so out of the 33 watt-hour per kilometer, around 16 goes into actual useful power output.
Okay, so what does it turns out? Value 92?
So the battery energy efficiency comes out to around 95%, and the motor and inverter efficiencies are around 90% or so.
Okay, even for 90%, you still need a cooling. What is the power rating of the mission?
So the maximum power output is 5.5 kilowatts.
Okay. And in your calculation for battery, what is the energy for the battery? You have mentioned weight as 18, but what is the electrical energy?
So we use 23S 12 peak, a combination of lithium-ion batteries and lithium-ion cells, and each cell has a capacity of 3 ampere.
Okay, and what is the voltage?
The nominal voltage, as described by Emmanuel, was 83.14 volt.
Okay.
What does it mean in?
It is mentioned as 48.
Correct.
Sorry, what?
Yeah.
Could you
One
repeat
of the
that?
slides, it is mentioned as 48 volt.
Yeah.
In the emission calculation, it is 83 volts. So in your simulation, were you using a 48 volt battery or 83 volt battery?
No, for the nominal voltage, we used 83 for the calculation of battery sizing.
Okay.
What is the battery rating in kilowatt hour? Energy rating?
3 kilowatt hour.
Okay.
Emmanuel, this question to you. Conventionally, for two-wheelers, we use, let's say, 48 or 72 volt system. So for your calculations, you need 83 volt. Why you need 83? Can't you redesign to operate at 48 or 72?
I think it is possible, but there is always the possibility of having huge. But when we tried designing it, there was significant ripple beyond the base speed, the torque ripple I'm talking about. So we were trying to optimize our design to minimize torque ripple and other constraints, like keeping the efficiency as high as possible, close to 90%.
What is the relation between the voltage and torque ripple?
So I'm not really sure what it would be, but I think it should. I'm not really sure about what relation it would have. I'm sorry about that.
You can mention in terms of cause effect relationship, whether increasing, decreasing, or what is your observation from the simulation once you arrive at this 83 volt.
Yeah. So one thing I observed was that. So basically, what happens is if you keep increasing the voltage, the torque ripple was observed to decrease. That is one thing we observed while performing the simulations. So I'm sorry if that. I'm sorry. Did I answer your question, or is there a follow up to that?
Okay, you have answered in terms of cost relation, but you can relook at what is to be done, because surely 83 volt is not a standard. So you need to redesign it, either it's 48 or 72 or take it to even higher, right? I mean, you need to see the real life whether I can get that a component for 83 volt battery.
That is true, but I think even if you have to realize any other voltage, you can put a boost converter to essentially get a higher voltage, right? Or
It's all adding to the cost and losses, so it's not really suggestible. Okay, in simulation we can do all kind of, but that's not practical. And for Saksham, you told 25 kilohertz. Is there an optimization technique, or that was just randomly chosen?
Well, no, I just, yeah, like I didn't, I just took, I just saw the factors and I saw that after increasing the frequency, if I increase, then the temperature would also increase. And for the power losses, I had taken all the parameters at 25 degrees Celsius. So, like, if I would increase the switching frequency, those parameters will also change. So, just for those calculations, I took a switching frequency of 25 kilohertz.
What will happen if you keep it less? Why
If I
not
keep
20?
it,
Why not 20?
um, I mean, okay, that was not like there was no like on increasing the swing frequency, the harmonic distortions do go down. So like maybe that is one advantage of 25 kilohertz, but that was not something which I calculated. It was just
Okay.
yeah.
Have you done any cross verifications on the switching frequency and the ripples created? Because you have a problem statement one side on the higher switching frequency, maybe THD or something. On the other side, you have an issue with the torque ripples. Have you done any thoughts on this one as a system?
No, we haven't done this. The relation of switching frequency with the torque ripple.
Am I audible? Do you get the
Yeah,
question
yeah.
or?
I mean, the relation of switching frequency with torque ripple, is that the question?
Correct. Yeah.
No, we haven't. No, we haven't looked at that.
Okay, I would suggest you do a cost effect analysis, yeah, and then
Okay.
a little bit optimize your complete system. And one more question on the 12 kilometers per hour, the regenerative braking. You have mentioned that below that you are going for mechanical, right? No,
Yeah, sir. Yeah.
and how does you narrow to 12 kilometers per hour? You could be very generic. Where does you get this value from?
Okay, so like we were looking on the internet and some on some searches I found that they take the value to be about 10 kilometers per hour. This 12 kilometers per hour was according to my memory was taken in consideration with the torque and omega values that lead to the power, the charging power of the battery. So 12, I guess below 12 kilometers per hour, the torque was lower than 20 Newton meter, and that was not just feasible for us, I guess.
Okay, I will summarize that you taken it from some reference. Yeah.
So that you can.
Sir, also adding to his answer, below that speed, we observed that the braking distance was not like the region was not strong enough to give the braking capacity we needed. The region braking, I mean.
I mean, was it simulated or that is your expectation?
Yes, sir. Like when we ran the simulations, we observed that in the low speed regions, the region braking was very weak. So from that, for the safety concern also.
Okay.
That's the secondary point, sir.
Okay.
I think you could add a vehicle stability model to this thing and also continue the analysis in this line. Yeah. Maybe a better vehicle dynamics model or something like that. Yeah. So a proper fitment to this question.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Sir, and as an ending note, I would like to ask you to please refer to the supporting document as well. We have mentioned some analysis and calculations there that we could not put in the presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.